A good idea to do a quick primer on how to play Splight. I'm going to apologise right now because the audio quality might not be the greatest because I haven't got a mic on me right now, so I'm using the onboard mic off my girlfriend's Mac, and this Mac gets very hot very quickly, so the fans are probably going to start going any minute now. But if you can bear with me, I'm going to show you 7 combos you can do with Splight today, as well as tell you what the Splight cards do very quickly, because I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with them. You might just not know how to play the cards. So, to begin with, we're going to go through the Splight main deck monsters. So we have Splight Blue. All the Splights have the same first effect, where if you control a level 2 or a rank 2 monster, you can special summon them from the hand. Blue and Jet have effects when they are summoned, and Carrot and Red have negation effects they can use by tributing a level rank or link 2 monster you control other than themselves. So Blue allows you to search for a Splight monster, so it can search for Red, it can search for Carrot, or it can search for Jet. Jet allows you to search for a Splight spell or trap card. That is Starter and Smashers. Starter is basically E-tally for the deck. It allows you to special summon a Splight monster from your deck, and if you do, you lose life points equal to the original attack of that monster. For the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except level, rank, or link 2 monsters. Smashers is a quick play spell, like Starter is, but it is a removal spell. Has 3 different effects depending on the archetype you're playing it in. The one we are concerned with is the final effect. So to activate the card, you have to banish a Splight card from your hand or your graveyard, and then you get to banish both one level, rank, or link 2 monster you control and one card your opponent controls. It's a non-targeting banish, so it's very, very good removal, and it's very accessible. I will say the list I have in front of me right now is not the be-all, end-all of what your list should look like. I've basically just tried to make it as basic as possible, so I have the cards for all the combos of what to do, as well as just show you like the core cards you need to be playing. Like these hand traps can change, you don't have to play all of the engines I'm playing. There's definitely room for maneuvering because the engine itself is really quite small. Like, what is that? That's 14 cards, is it? 14 cards in the main deck, which are actual Splight cards. The other 26 can be anything. You do really want to be playing these next cards, though, which are the frogs. Everybody knows what the frogs do. Swap Frog obviously allows you to send a level 2 or lower Orca, which is usually Ronan Toden, who can special summon itself by banishing a frog monster. And Dupe Frog is the most frustrating card if you've ever played with this card, because it always misses timing for its search effect, but it does redirect attacks to himself, which is very good for protecting your end board, because often your end board has quite low attack points, so being able to defend them with a Dupe Frog is very, very strong. The next cards we're playing are 3 Sea Diva and 3 Nimble Beaver. These both do essentially the same thing, which is on normal summon, you get to special summon another copy of themselves from the deck, which gives you access to a rank 2 monster. Sea Diva is a little bit better, I think, because it's a tuner, which allows you to go through Hulky Fibrax players to set up different end boards, like being able to search hand traps and the such. Because we're playing Nimble Beaver, we're also playing 1 copy of Nimble Angler. If this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you get to special summon up to 2 level 3 or lower Nimble monsters. This can be achieved by discarding it with the effect of Swap Frog, do special summon himself, or by Foolish Burial, which makes Foolish Burial a 1-card starter which doesn't use your normal, which is very strong. The rest of these cards are hand traps and 1 Call by the Grave. They're not very important. I will say that Ash, Veiler, Ogre, and Gamma are tuners, so you can summon with Hulky Fibrax, which allows you to search them in some combos. I'll show you that a little bit later on. Gamma is very important because it's also a level 2 monster, so you can have instances where you activate like a starter, your opponent will activate an Ash, you will chain your Gamma, getting able to summon the Gamma and the Driver, and then you have a level 2 monster, which allows you to special summon your Splight monsters. We'll go through the extra deck now, and I can see that it's not in order, so I'm quickly going to click A to Z. We're going to start by looking at Gigantic Splight, which is the heart and soul of the deck. It's a rank 2 monster you can make with any 2 level 2s, and it has 2 effects, right? Yeah, 2 effects. Well, 3 effects, kind of. So you can summon it with 2 level 2 monsters, or you can also use a link 2 monster to as material. So you can use like a Hulky Fibrax and a copy of Swap Frog to make Gigantic Splight, which is really, really good. But its main effect that you're worried about is that during the main phase, you get to detach a material from a monster you control, not as cost, and doesn't have to be from himself. So you can detach from a Totally Awesome if you happen to have material left on it in your turn 3, and then you get to special summon any level 2 monster from your deck. Usually, this will be to summon Swap Frogs from your deck to be able to send Rodent Totems. This set of totally awesome plays. But there's other options that you can go down with different decks, like you could summon the Evil Twin monsters, you can summon Melfi Wallaby if you want to play the Melfi deck. Many different options that opens up a lot of different avenues. Mainly, you'll be summoning Swap Frog with this card. The next Splight card is Splight Elf. This is the link 2 for the deck, and it has a quick effect Monster Reborn effect during the main phase, that's during your main phase and your opponent's main phase, where it can target a level 2 monster in your graveyard and special summon it. If your opponent controls a monster, you can choose a rank 2 monster or a link 2 monster instead. This allows you to special summon back your Totally Awesomes once they've used the negation effect to be able to reuse them, which is very strong. I'll quickly go over the rest of the extra deck. It's not all that important. Well, I guess this card's kind of important. Totally Awesome. Now, Totally Awesome is a card you're going to be seeing a lot of in the next format. It's a fantastic negation effect. It allows you to get to Dupe Frog to protect the rest of your board. It adds back to give you more replayability on going forward into turn 3. It's absolutely fantastic, and you'll be seeing a lot of this card in the combos. I think every single combo I have makes it that I'm going to show you. I'm pretty sure that's true. We have Gin Buster. This is another rank 2 monster which negates. You have to make it with 2 level 2 dark monsters, which Splight Jet and Splight Blue both are. So you are allowed to detach 2 XE material from this card to negate the activation of a monster effect, which it's only got 1300 attack, so you really need the dupe protection to make sure this card doesn't die to normal summon Alaba, I guess. But it is a disruption, so it's very nice to be able to go into. We're also playing an IP Masquerader. This will also be in a lot of the end boards. Because the Splight Gigantic locks you into level 2, rank 2, and link 2 monsters, being able to set up an IP Masquerader, which is of course a link 2, allows you to go into cards like Appaloosa in your opponent's turn, or Unicorn if you choose to play it. It's over on the side here for some extra cards I'll talk about in a moment. We are playing one Gachi Gachi. It's a rank 2 monster that, if it would be destroyed, you could detach a material from it instead. You could play Skycav, which again I have over here in the side deck. This protects itself from battle. I'm opting to play Gachi Gachi because it allows itself to protect itself from all destruction effects, which means in back row matchups like Eldritch, which in the OCG had a pretty good matchup against Splight. This doesn't fold to a copy of Conquistador or something to that effect. So I'm opting to play Gachi Gachi. However, Skycab is just as good, probably, depending on how the format shakes up, because this is also a removal spell, as well as being a way of getting into Zeus. We have the downer to go into the Zeus to add extra material. We're playing XE monsters, we're of course playing Zeus. What have I not talked about? Halka Fibrax, I mentioned earlier. Allows us to special summon tuners from the deck. This can be in Deep Sea Diva to get another level 2, or Gamma for another level 2, or again can be for copies of Ash, Ogre, and Vela to be able to return to your hand to add hand traps to your line. If you are special summoning a Gamma to add, we need the Lambda in our extra deck to be able to stick to the board so we can actually resolve our Gamma, since we will definitely be controlling monsters. The final card is a Salamangre Almirage. This is needed for the weaker hands, where like the 1-card Swap Frog engine, or 1-card combo, requires you to have an Almirage in your extra deck to be able to do the combo. In the side deck, I've just got some other options. So this deck can definitely Scythe Lock. Whether Scythe will be legal at the time when Splight comes out, at the minute the next ban list is Christmas Day, so I mean, it could very well be legal. I expect that date to be moved forward. But if Scythe is still legal, you can definitely Scythe Lock your opponent, and I have a little bit of an over-the-top, overextended combo to show you later on, which uses Scythe. Hobbyist Squadron, in the same vein as summoning a hand trap and bouncing it to hand, you can also use that Hobbyist Squadron. This allows you to go into a Herald of the Arclight in your opponent's turn, which can be pretty strong. The Evil Twins, I'm not going to go over any Evil Twin combos in this video. However, Dylan is definitely planning on doing Evil Twin Splight combos to show to you all at some point. That video will be up on the channel at some point. I've talked to him about it today, and he is still keen to do it, so you'll see it when it comes out. Rescue Cat and Wallaby are my stand-ins for saying you can play Melfi in this deck. It definitely would be a budget option for you to play if you don't want to spend the £450 a Totally Awesome probably is right now. Melfi, all the cards are very cheap. if you get your hands on a Splight core but don't want to buy the frogs, Melfi could be a way to go. I'm not going to show any Melfi combos off in this video. However, if you are interested in seeing that or seeing some gameplay from Melfi Splight, I'll happily do that at a later date. Yamato Orochi is another target for Deep Sea Diva. I don't think I'm showing a combo with this card in this video. However, I'll go over it briefly. It can be treated as a level 8 monster when used for a synchro summon. So if you opened up like Diva and another Splight, you can Diva for your Yamato, summon another Splight, and then use your Splight and your Yamato to go into a Baron de Fleur, since 8 plus 2 equals 10. Here's the Baron de Fleur. Obviously, with the Scythe, we'll be using the TG Wonder Magician, which could also go into their Baron de Fleur. Dagda would obviously be used for the Scythe. We've talked about Unicorn. Cross-Out Designator is in here because Splight was the best deck of the format, and this card is very, very good in mirror matches. So you might want to make room in your deck for Cross-Out Designator, because it's not just for hand traps. Like if you're playing in the mirror match and you are able to Cross-Out Designate your opponent's blue, or your opponent's jet, or your opponent's swap frog, it can really hinder the deck. So it's probably worth playing, especially if Splight takes up more than like 70% of like what we're seeing at events. Last card, Emergency Teleport. Gamma's a Psychic, it's a level 2. You could possibly use this as another extender, and I'm sure there's other E-Teddy targets that you could possibly use. So without further ado, we're going to start getting into the combos. Like I said, I have 7 for you. So this first combo is what you can do with just a single copy of Swap Frog. So we're going to start by normal summoning our copy of Swap Frog and using the effect to send a Ronin Toad into the graveyard. We can then turn our Swap Frog into the Salamangreat Almirage I talked about earlier, and use the Ronin Toad in our grave to banish the Swap Frog to special summon itself. We can then use our 2 monsters on the board to go into a copy of Splight Elf. This allows us to use the effect and special summon back the Ronin Toad, and since we now have a level 2 and a Link 2 monster, we can overlay them to special summon Gigantic Splight. We can detach the Ronin Toad to use the Splight's effect to special summon a Swap Frog from the deck and send another copy of Swap Frog from the deck to the graveyard. So we go through all copies of Swap Frog in this combo, and we'll get to the Dupe Frog by using the Ronin Toad to banish the Swap Frog and going into a Totally Awesome. This means that in the standby phase, we get to detach our Swap Frog and we get to special summon out a copy of Dupe Frog. So the end board is the Totally Awesome Negate, Dupe Frog protect our cards from battle, and a Gigantic Splight, which is actually 3200 since we used a Link 2 monster to special summon it. We'll go into the next combo here, and this is going to be, it's not a free card combo, I'm just showing you all of the possible options for how to do it. So it's either Diva, Beaver, or a Foolish. Essentially, how you get to 2 monsters on board with just your normal summon. In this instance, I am going to use the copy of Foolish. We're going to use Foolish to send Nimble Angler, and we're going to apply the effect to be able to special summon 2 copies of Nimble Beaver from our deck. From here, we can overlay our Nimble Beavers for a Gigantic Splight and use the effect to special summon a Swap Frog from the deck. This allows us to send our Ronin Toad, as we did previously, and we can link our monsters off to make an elf to bring back our copy of Swap Frog, sending another copy of Swap Frog from the deck to the grave. This, of course, fuels our Ronin Toad, so we can special summon him back, and we can make a Totally Awesome. There's a very similar end board to the last combo, but since we have Splight Elf on the board, we actually have 2 Totally Awesome negates, in theory. So we can use our Totally Awesome effect to negate one of our opponent's card, tributing itself, and potentially setting it, depending on where they activate the card from. And then if they have a monster on the board, we can use Splight Elf to bring back our Totally Awesome, which allows us to use the effect again for a negate, both times being able to add back a water from our graveyard to our hand. Right, let's go on to the next combo. So the next combo is going to be what we can do with simply 1 Splight Starter. So we're going to activate the card, and we are going to summon a blue from the deck. Since it was special summoned, we can add a Jet from our deck to our hand. We control level 2, so we'll special summon our copy of Jet. This allows us to search for a spell or trap. In this instance, I'm going to go for Smashers. However, in most of these combos, you'll see that you can search for Smashers or you can search for Starter, and you still end on similar amounts of Disruption. We're going to overlay our Splight cards, and we're going to go for Gigantic Splight, which will allow us to summon a Swap Frog, as we have done so many times previously. We will send the Ronin Toad, we will link for the Elf, and we will summon back the Swap again, sending another copy of Swap, if the Dueling Book will catch up with me. This allows us to use the Ronin Toad, banishing the Swap, and of course, making it Totally Awesome. So, just off our 1 copy of Starter, we have ended on the Splight Elf Totally Awesome combo again, so 2 ways of negating with Totally Awesome. as well as the Splight Smashes. If we had searched for Spright Starter, we could use the Splight Starter on our opponent's turn to special summon either a red or a carrot. This will allow us to tribute off the Dupe Frog we'd special summon off of the Totally Awesome to get an additional negate. However, that would leave us vulnerable in the battle phase. So either are a good way of going. I prefer searching for Smashes because A, it leaves more copy of Starter in my deck, which is a better card to draw, and also it means that I don't have to worry about keeping my Dupe Frog on the field, so I can definitely protect my Splight Elf from battle. We're going to go on to the next combo now, which is what to do if you open up Swap Frog and another copy of a water. So, Swap Frog is going to discard our copy of Nimble Beaver, which of course could be any water, and apply its effect to send a Ronin Totem to the graveyard. We can then bounce the Swap Frog to bestow ourselves with an extra normal of a frog monster. It can't be Swap Frog. However, we haven't used our regular normal, so we can normal Swap Frog and use the effect to send a Swap Frog from deck to grave. This of course fuels our Ronin Totem, which allows it to come back. Instead of going for Totally Awesome here, we're going to go straight into Gigantic Splight. This allows us to detach the Ronin Totem again and special summon a copy of blue. This of course searches Jet, which can special summon itself, and again search for a Splight spell. I'm going to search Smashes again, but again, it could definitely be Starter. We're then going to link off the blue and the Splight to go into Elf, which will allow us to bring back our Swap Frog, as we've done so many times, send another copy of Swap Frog to fuel our Ronin Totem, so we can bring it back one more time to be able to make our Totally Awesome. This is the end board. If we search Starter here, we can use the Starter to special summon a copy of Red. This allows us to link into an IP Masquerainer, or keep the red up simply as a negate. The IP Masquerainer will allow us to go into Appaloosa in our opponent's turn, which is very strong. Another option is if we use Starter, we could have summoned a Dark Splight monster like Blue or Jet, and we could make Gin Buster instead, which of course is another way of negating a card. The options are there, it depends what you really want to do. I feel like going for IP Masquerainer was probably better here because it means you can have more copies of your blue and your jet in deck for extra draws, and Appaloosa is 2 negates, whereas Gym Buster is only 1. However, this does mean that you have to use both your Toad negates before you use the IP Masquerainer, so you don't lose the value on Elf bringing back Toad. So there's swings and roundabouts, and it probably depends on the matchup you're facing. Let's go into the next combo. So the next combo is going to be what to do when you open Swap plus either Blue, Jet, or Starter. The lines vary depending on which one you open, but you can get to pretty much the same board no matter which one you do open. In this case, I'm going to use Swap Frog and Blue. So we're going to use Swap Frog, send Ronin Totem, and we're going to special summon a copy of Blue. Blue is going to search a Jet, as it pretty much always does, and then we will special summon Jet and allow ourselves to search for a spell. We're going to search Starter this time, but again, you could search Smashes. We then overlay our Frog and one of our Splites to go into Gigantic Splight, detaching the material and summoning another copy of Swap Frog. This will allow us to send the third copy of Swap Frog to the graveyard. We can then use Ronin Totem, banishing one of these copies of Swap Frog to special summon itself, and use the Gigantic Splight and himself to go into a Splight Elf. This allows us to use the Splight Elf to bring back a copy of Blue. We can then use Ronin Totem, banishing the Swap Frog to special summon itself, and we can overlay both of our Splites for a Gin Buster. Again, we could make IP. And then we can overlay our Swap Frog and our Ronin Totem to make a Totally Awesome. And then we can set our Starter. In Ops turn, we will be able to special summon a copy of Dupe Frog to protect our cards from battle. And then we can use Starter to special summon a copy of Red. This means we can turn our Dupe Frog into a negation if we so see fit. We'll then go on to the next combo. And this is what to do when you open Diva and either Blue, Jet, or Starter. Again, the lines vary depending on what you have, but you can end on essentially the same board no matter which one. We're going to start off with normal summoning Diva and special summoning another copy of Diva from the deck. We can then summon Blue from our hand, searching Jet as it always does. We can then link off our 2 copies of Diva for a Crystron Helka Firebrax. Helka Firebrax can then special summon a Gamma from our deck. This could also be an Ash Blossom. We can then special summon our Jet, and we can search for a spell. I search Smashes here, but I forget that I'm doing the Gamma line, so if you're doing the Gamma line, you need to search a copy of Starter. I will fix this momentarily. We then overlay our Hulk of Firebrax and our Jet for a gigantic Splight, and use the effect to special summon a Swap Frog. This allows us to send a Ronin Totem from the deck to the graveyard. And then we can bounce our Gamma with our Swap Frog effect to bestow ourselves with an extra normal. We don't care about the extra normal, we just want to put that hand trap in our hand. We then use the Swap Frog and the gigantic Splight to go into a Splight Elf. And we can use the effect to bring back the Frog and send another copy of himself to the graveyard to fuel our Ronin Totem. Here is where I realised that this should be a Starter, so we add Starter to our hand. We use the Ronin Totem, banishing our Swap Frog to special summon himself back, and then we can overlay it for a copy of Totally Awesome. We then use our copy of Starter to special summon any Splight monster from the deck. In this case, I'm going to go for red. We then use red and blue, and we go into a copy of Lambda. This turns our Gamma on and makes sure that we can use it in our opponent's turn. It is definitely possible for you to summon the Ash instead of the Gamma, and this means you don't have to make Lambda, which means you can make IP. Or you could actually keep the Smashers, like I searched earlier. But Gamma is a very, very good negation to have, because not only does it negate the effect, it also destroys. And if you get to the end phase where Lambda's still on the board and the Gamma and the Lambda banish themselves, it allows you to search for another copy of Gamma for your opponent's turn. Let's go on to the next combo. So this is the final combo I'm going to show to you guys today. It is a bit more of an eccentric combo, and it is for the Scythe line. Again, we don't know if Scythe will be legal when Splight is also legal, but it's worth looking into, and this is definitely the most powerful line you can go into. So to get to this, I'm using Diva and Blue. I'm sure there's other lines that you can use to get to this, but this is the simplest one I could think of to show off. So we're going to normal summon our Diva, and we're going to use the effect to special summon another Diva. We can then special summon our Splight Blue from our hand and use the effect to search Jet. We can then link off our copy of Diva and our copy of Blue to go into an artifact Dagda. We can then special summon our Jet since we still control level 2 and use the effect to search for a Splight spell, as well as triggering our Dagda since a monster on the effect since a card on the effect was activated. So we set our Scythe and we search Starter. We can then overlay Dagda and our Jet to make gigantic Splight and use the effect to special summon a Swap Frog. We can then use Swap Frog to send Ronin Totem, link our monsters off to go in for an Elf, and then bring back our Swap Frog again to give some fuel for our Ronin Totem to bring it back. So we're going to send the Swap Frog. We're going to use our Diva and our Elf to go into a copy of Hulk of Firebrax, and we can use that effect to special summon a Hop Ear Squadron from our deck. This could again be a Gamma, however we don't really have the materials to go into a Lambda, and we can't go for Ash because we're locked into level 2 monsters at this point. So I've gone for Hop Ear Squadron. You don't have to play this card. It could just be any tuner. It doesn't really matter. You could also just not summon off the Hulk of Firebrax if you didn't want to have a target, but more than likely you'll just summon Gamma. We then use the Swap Frog effect to bounce the Hop Ear Squadron, and use the Ronin Totem, banishing the Swap Frog to summon himself. We can then overlay for a copy of Totally Awesome. We can then use Starter to special summon a copy of Carrot from the deck. So this is the end board in your turn, and it doesn't actually look that impressive, but see what it gets to in our opponent's turn. So in the standby phase, we can use Totally Awesome's effect to summon a Duke Frog. This will fuel our Carrot, so we don't have to use our Totally Awesome or our Hulk of Firebrax. In our opponent's main phase, we get to use Hulk of Firebrax's effect, banishing itself to special summon a copy of TG Wonder Magician. We can of course apply the effects, popping the Scythe, as you're very familiar with now, and using the Scythe effect to special summon itself back, and using the effect on the board to lock our opponent out of the extra deck. We can then use the TG Wonder Magician either in Chain or on Resolution to synchro with the artifact Scythe for a copy of Baron Fleur. We also have this Hop Ear Squadron in hand, which we can use to target a monster and quick synchro with it. This allows us to go into a copy of Herald. So, of the 2 cards we have, we've locked our opponent out of the extra deck. We have 3 Omni negates, as well as an additional Spell Trap negate from Carrot. Using the Hop Ear Squadron here is technically incorrect. You would really rather use your Carrot's effect to tribute the Duke Frog before you have to use the Hop Ear Squadron, so your Carrot isn't forced to tribute the Totally Awesome, because once it totally is aboard, the Carrot's kind of useless. But yeah, I mean, it's a very, very strong end board, and it's very unlikely your opponent's going to be able to break this without exactly Droplet, pretty much. I guess Chalice? No, because you can just negate Chalice, which is totally awesome. So yeah, not only do you get to Scythe-lock your opponent, you get to do it all with the protection of the Omni effect, and your opponent can never Nibiru you through this combo because we go to Gigantic Splight. Yeah, that is the last combo I want to show you. I hope you've enjoyed. I'm going to quickly go back to the deck just so you can have another look at the cards I'm playing now that you understand what they do a little bit better. If you've enjoyed this video, I really would appreciate if you could like the video, maybe subscribe, because I'll be planning on doing more videos just like this in the future. Like I said, Dylan is going to be in the process of making an Evil Twin Splight combo. I'm interested in doing a Splight Melfi video, and I also am planning to do a primer on tier elements at some point. I haven't read all the cards that thoroughly at this point, so I'm not too familiar. However, I'm sure after a week of reading the cards, I'll be more than competent enough to be able to give a basic primer on how to play the deck for the next format. So yeah, if you enjoyed, please leave a subscription. We're trying to grow this channel as quickly as possible. Honestly, 50 subscribers in less than a month, it's not too bad. We're growing at a pretty decent pace. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.